All right, the stuff we did yesterday. Shh, quiet. The quadratic formula.
Oh, it's negative b.
You're right so far.
Negative minus plus or minus the square root of b squared. B squared.
Negative b.
Minus 4ac over 2a.
All over 2a. Right. Okay, there's the quadratic formula. Now, the quadratic formula is used to solve quadratics to figure out what x is. So, sometimes it's worded differently. You use the quadratic formula if they say solve. Sometimes they say find the x-intercepts. Because the solution to a parabola is wherever it crosses the x-axis, so those are called the x-intercepts also. Sometimes they also say find the zeros. And sometimes they'll say find the roots. So if they say any one of these four things, it all means the same thing. Figure out what x is, and you can use the quadratic formula. So remember, the a is the number in front of the x squared, the b is in front of the x, the c is the number without an x. And everything has to be on the same side. If there's stuff on different sides, you want to move it to one side or the other. So a is 4, b is negative 13, c is 3. So we plug this in to the formula. Negative b would change that to positive 13. Plus or minus b squared. Now, anyone remember what I talked about yesterday on the square?
Positive.
Right. Don't even put the negative in your calculator because it'll turn positive. Minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a, which is just 8. So when you solve this, eventually, well, next section actually, they have you evaluate the discriminant and not actually solve it. You just say whether there's one solution, two solutions, or no solution. So we're not doing that yet. That'll be the next section. But what you do is just figure out what this is inside here. It's really easier on the calculator if you just do this part first instead of trying to do it all at once. So 13 squared minus 4 times 4 times 3 is 121. So the two answers then, to get your two answers, you got to take 13 plus the square root of 121 and then divide by 8. And then you got to do minus 13 minus the square root of 121 divided by 8. Now when you do this, remember when you go 13 plus that, you got to press equals. If you don't press equals, it's just going to divide these by 8 because order of operation says to do multiply and divide before adding. So 13 plus square root of 121, press equals, divided by 8 is 3. And then 13 minus the square root of 121 is 2 divided by 8 is 1/4 or 0.25. Okay. So again, they're not real hard. It's you just got to plug A, B, and C into the formula, and then put those two into the calculator.
Okay.
So in this one, A would be a -1, B would be a 1, C is 30. So when we solve it, negative B is -1 plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A is -2. So if you figure out this inside, again, it turned out to be 121.
Wait, do you always put those in parentheses? A and C?
What's that?
Do you always put them in parentheses, A and C?
Well, that, you could just put multiply on the calculator. I just put parentheses to keep them separate, but that does mean multiply.
So how do you put the square root thing? Oh, you hit the second.
Square root, yeah, it's above the x squared, so you gotta hit the second and then the x squared key.
And then one.
Now, so the two answers are -1 plus the square root of 121, all divided by -2, and -1 minus the square root of 121 divided by -2. So that's 10, that's -5,
Equals
that's 6, I believe.
6, yeah.
Okay.
What?
Now you don't always get whole numbers like this. Sometimes you'll get decimals. If you do, they always want you to round to the nearest hundredth on these. So for this one, the A is 3, the B is 5, the C is 1. So put these in, it'd be negative B plus or minus B squared, I'm just going to put it in, it's 25, minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times A is 6. So if you figure this out, that turns out to be the square root of 13. 25 minus 4 times 3 times 1 is 13.
Wait. So you have to put the parentheses?
Well, you can, but that just means times. You know, instead of,
So kind of put -4, or is it -4?
no, it's a subtract 4 times 3 times 1. On the calculator, if you want to put it just like this with parentheses, you can, but that just means to multiply, so it's just 4 times 3 times 1.
So why do I get,
You didn't get 13?
I get like -18? So you're not supposed to put -5 in front?
Oh, you're figuring this out? I just figured the inside out is 13.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happy.
So then, the two answers are -5 plus the square root of 13 divided by 6, and -5 minus the square root of 13 divided by 6. If they ever tell you to leave it in simplest radical form, you just leave it like this, because that's not a perfect square. But we're not doing that, we're doing calculators. So you just punch that in, -5 plus square root of 13, you gotta press equals, and then divided by 6.
That one is -1.4.
I got it.
3, 4, 2, 5, 8, 5.
-0.23.
Yeah.
Oh, the second one? Okay, then here, -5 minus the square root of 13. Press equals, and then divide by 6.
-1.4.
0.43, yep. Okay. So everyone's gonna want a calculator. You could use the calculator on your iPad if you want to.